Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Last time we checked about the real-time data integration in two different sessions. This is third in series where we are going to see today things in action. So this is actually looking at how you can actually send messages on the Kafka topic and then consume it in the consumer side. And then we'll also look at how we can send the data that is being changed in the MySQL uh, that is sent on to the Amazon S3 bucket. So if you haven't seen my previous two videos, the first one I've explained the actual solution architecture that we are going to create for this kind of a real-time integration solution using MySQL, Binlog, then Kafka streaming, Amazon S3 bucket, DBZM connector, etc. And in the second session I had actually explained about the whole setup that we need, the different components that we need to install and things like that. So in this session let's look at the actual things happening. My request is if you haven't done the setup and haven't done the installation of the components, you might have to go back to the second video and do all that stuff. Here we are not doing any installation as such. Maybe we'll have to do some configuration maybe, but mostly we will be looking at things in action today. So let's get started. If you look at, I have two windows open here. So I have connected to my Amazon virtual machine that we created last time, and where we had installed everything. So we are going to first of all check that whatever setup that we have done in the last two sessions, that it is working and we are at least able to send a message on the Kafka topic, and we are able to receive that message on the consumer side. And we can do that by simply doing a console kind of a producer and console kind of a consumer. There are few commands that we need to run, which as last time I'll again have just kept it ready in my notepad, which will be copying and pasting it here. And I will paste those commands if you need in my comment section, where you can grab those commands. So let's quickly look at what I'm talking about. And of course this is the link where it is talking about the Kafka setup and how you can quickly test few things on Confluent Kafka. And these are the few commands that we are going to check to see that the setup is actually working and running properly. So go back to let's go back to the windows that we have, like where I have connected my VM. So let's assume the first one we are going to use as a producer, and the second one we are going to use as a consumer. So before starting anything, let's start the Kafka that we have installed, I mean the Confluent platform that we have installed, and we'll start all the services. Last time, okay, it says already linked, so let me show you kind of stopping first and then we'll restart it. So last time, if you recollect, we had an issue on the allocation of memory to the Java virtual machine, and then we had to do a setting of hitops on one of the configuration files. So we did that last time, and now we should be able to start all the services without any issues as such. So let's do start on so it will start like all the required services, Zookeeper, Kafka, then the schema registry, the connect service, and all those things. So it when it starts properly, it will show you like up in the green color in the box, and then it is going to come to the prompt again, showing that everything is started successfully, all the services are running, and then we can use this particular setup to test our Kafka streaming in action with the producer and the consumer. So let me clear this window again. So as I said, let's treat this first one as our Kafka producer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this command where we are actually using one of the kind of APIs, and we are starting it on 9092 port, and we are giving the name to our topic as test, and we are setting how do we want to send the message. So we are saying that the type of my record is going to be my message will be record, and then I'm just giving a name to it, and the fields that we are saying that I have just one field call. No, let me make a change here. Let me say this is field F1, and we can say, let's say this is my record, so it probably resembles to what it is shown in this particular URL as well. So let's take this one, and let's copy paste this onto the producer. So let me push it to the producer, and we should be able to see. Okay, so the Kafka this thing has started. The topic test is kind of ready to get the messages and send over to the consumer. And to check that, we'll have to start our consumer as well. So what we are doing is we are using the script Kafka Avro console consumer. Earlier in the other window we used producer. Here we are going to use consumer, and then what we are doing is we are telling that I want to listen on to the topic called test, and of course the localhost 2181 port, and I want to receive the messages from the beginning. So let's copy this and let's paste it into the consumer. So I'm just pasting the consumer command here and hit enter. So okay, so something went wrong where the confluent got copied as well, so let's do this. Okay. So since these were earlier messages that I had said on the same topic, I am receiving it because we said we want to receive it from the beginning. So let's go to the producer window, and what we said is my field is F1 and the type is string. So here if I now start typing the messages, that for my field 1 my first message has a value called, let's say Michael, Michelle, no whatever, let's say Michelle, and again close the, because this is how my my record looks like. These are the fields, like one field with which is a type string, so I'm sending my field 1 as Michelle right now, and we should be as soon as I hit enter, we should be able to see that it is being consumed by the consumer immediately. So that's that will prove that our setup of Kafka is working. So if you look at here, I got the message like field 1 Michelle. So as long as I keep typing here, let's say now the value of my F1 is going to be, let's say Chris, right, and it should appear over on the second window immediately. Yeah, so this indicates that the setup that we have done, at least it is working fine, right? So it proves that it is working fine. So let me show you now the next step, where we are going to actually set up the MySQL bin log, and then probably look at the messages being arrived onto S3 bucket, and then we will also update one of the tables, and we'll see that we are receiving the updated values as well in the message in the consumer side, I mean at least in the S3 bucket. So let's close this window. I'm not going to use this anymore, and let's stop this producer script. Right, so let me clear this out, and we have the services already started over here. So let's go back to our notepad, right? What I'm saying is, let's first check the S3 bucket folder. So let me go to my console, and let's see. If you see, this is the S3 bucket that I have set up here, and I'm going to click on this, and you see I don't have anything right now onto this. No, let me refresh this. In this Kafka S3 test data folder, I don't have anything right now. So what should happen is, as soon as we start the connector on the MySQL side, and as soon as we start the S3 sync connector, we should be able to see the messages, as in the updated records from the beginning arriving on my S3 bucket. So that's the main purpose of the whole POC, and the remaining part is then consuming the S3 bucket files into Snowflake data warehouse, which is the last part of our POC. So let's go back to our notepad, where we have this command. So what I'm saying is, enable the bin log on MySQL, right? And then we can check whether it is really running, I mean if the log is enabled or not. So in enabling MySQL log, what we need to do is, actually in a configuration file of MySQL, we need to add a few things to enable the log. So let's go to the folder where we will see this configuration file. So let me go to the root folder. Right, and as I said, I'm not really good in this Linux and all those operating systems, but no, you might have better commands than what I'm using. But just let's do a ls on here. So in our etc folder, there should be a MySQL folder, right? And if I do a listing on it, you will see this my.cnf file over here. This is what we are going to check, where I have done already the modifications to enable the MySQL binary log. So let's do a vi on this file. Right. So you will have this parameter called MySQLD, where you are including the directories, and then log bin is you're setting the directory for your log path, I mean wherever the log will be generated. And these are some other settings: when it expires, what should be the max bin log size, what is my server ID, the format, and things like that. So this is what we are doing over here. And let's close this. And if you want, I can paste this command as well on commands as well there. And now let's check if I can actually see whether the log is enabled or not. Of course, if you do it on your terminal, if you change your my.cnf, you might have to restart your MySQL service. So let's do a paste over here, and it should actually tell us whether our bin log is set up or not. So if you see here, log bin, right, it says on, which means our log has started. Now the things that remain is, we have to actually enable MySQL connector, and that you can use using a curl command, and I mean the REST API, and another REST API will use to start the S3 S3 connector as well. So as soon as we start that, whatever connection we have set up on whatever table, we should start seeing the files arriving as JSON files in our S3 bucket. So let's clear this thing. Let's go back to S3 bucket again. I'm just going to do a refresh on this, and then once I do this, I'm going to go back onto my commands. Right, if you see, this is the setup at my end, and you might have a different setup, so you might have to change those things as needed. But I'm going to use this REST API, and I'm going to start my MySQL connector. So let me paste it here. Okay. And if we get an error, then we have some issue. But if it is okay, so we don't have any error, so which means MySQL connector has started. And then we can actually use this to actually start our S3 connector as well. Right, so let me hit enter over there, and then you will see that this is where I am doing it. And then you can actually check whether the connectors are started or not using this API command again, which will show us whether our okay. So let me see. Okay, something went wrong, so let me clear this. Something some issue on, let me see what went wrong. Let's take this. Let's see. So this window should actually, this command should actually tell us the connector is started or not. But since no, there is some issue in my this thing, so let's ignore for that for the moment. But since we haven't received any issues on our connector, no, starting our connector, the connector should have been started, and I will post the actual command to test the connector status in the comment section. But let's go back to the S3 bucket, and we should be able to see since we have yeah, if you see, there is a topics folder now created, right? Let's go back a little bit back to the notepad, and let's see where we have hooked up into a DB history demo. That's my Kafka topic name, and right, so yeah, this is where we are hitting. So let's go back and let's see in the topics folder in the demo.chakila.customer, right, the partition 0, right. So if you see all those files, right, they are coming from the customer table. And why customer table? Because we are hitting it to the topics called the demo.chakila.customer, which we created in this MySQL connector section. And let me go down, right, customer, right. So this is what we have done till now, right. And let's go back to the so let's look at, right, how many, like 1 to 199, these many files we have, which is now appearing like couple of records in each of those files. So based on number of records we have received these many files. So now next task is, now let's look at if we modify some record into the SQL database, we should actually see a new record appearing over here, and it is going to show us a record in a format where we say where we see like before and the after, like before updating the record and after updating the record. So let's go back to the let's start MySQL over here, and I'm going to do sudo MySQL connect to the root, enter the password, right. So we are at MySQL now, so prompt. So let's say show databases, and okay, so if you see, we have a database called Sakila where we have created our producer. So use Sakila, right, and let's say show tables, right. So we have these many customers, and as I said, we have enabled right now for customer table. So let's quickly do select on star from customer table, right. So we have records here, and let's try to modify let's say record number which is customer ID equal to 583, and let's modify from marsher ton to no, I'm going to do my name there. So I'm going to say update customer set. Let's quickly check the schema of my the column names we need to look at first, right, before updating. So I'm just going to limit it to, let's say, 2 records and do select on that. So customer ID, first name and last name. So what I'm going to do, as I mentioned, right, let's do a change on, let's say, this 583 record and change it to no, my name. So I'm going to do a update customer table, right, and set the first name is equal to Virendra, comma, last name is equal to Wadekar, and where the customer ID is equal to 583. So let's see what happens. Right, so unknown column customer ID, maybe some spelling mistake. Yeah, I missed to type the E in my customer ID. So let me modify my query again. Update. So yeah, so it says one row affected, one row matched. So the expectation is, since we have set up our MySQL bin log, the Debizium SQL connector is hooked up into the binary log of MySQL, and what it is going to do is, as soon as I've changed something over here, it is going to actually create that JSON file and send over it to my S3 bucket, where we are going to see that what was the first name and the last name before changing for this particular customer ID. So let's go back to the S3 bucket. So we see again we have like only 12199 file. Let me do a refresh on this. We should be able to see now 200, like one extra file which should be showing us the modified record that we should have been receiving on the consumer. So if we look at let's do a what do you call sorting on this guy. Yeah, so 337 is what is the latest file that we are received after our modification. So I'm just going to download this file, and now we'll open it in Notepad, and we'll see the modification that we did on that particular record. So let me do a show in folder, and then I'm specifically going to be opening this into Notepad, so we know what has happened. So if you look here, customer ID 583 is what we have modified. So it is telling me before the record was like this: store ID blah blah blah, the first name was Marshall, last name was Thorn. And if I now go to next and look at, I think we can open this file in probably Internet Explorer, which will actually show us the in a particular format. But if you look at here now, after records is going to show me like customer ID again 583. We didn't change the ID, but we have changed the name to like my name, like Virendra first name and Wadekar as last name. So this is how anything that you are changing in the source will instantly appear into Amazon S3 bucket, right? And you can actually use that S3 bucket to kind of update your Snowflake data warehouse, which is going to be the last part of our POC. So I hope you like the video. Please subscribe, put your comments. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will be able to help you to set up all those things. So bye for now. Thanks again for watching. See you in the fourth and the last session of this data integration POC. Thank you.